Hi, my name is Aaron, and this is my show, Reeducation. And the state will not just wither away. That is evident by now. We can't just simply wait around for capitalism to evaporate and turn into socialism. That's not something that happens. Inevitably, the reason why capitalism continues to exist is because the elites in power, the unjustified hierarchies that are controlling us all, continue to perpetuate it. And once, even though capitalism has the seeds of its own destruction built within it, once it has finally reached the point of which it has accumulated all of the wealth or cannot continue to grow, if the socialists are to do nothing, it evolves into fascism. That's how this works. And that is why it's so important what we're doing here. Throughout history, there has always been that yin and yang. Every time fascism starts to erupt, starts to arise, socialism is there to meet it and defeat it, like it has every time in the past. But this time, we are in a modern society, and we are seeing this rise of fascism again, and so I think that it is important for us to discuss exactly what fascism is. Seeing that I have been around neo-Nazis, fascists, and the alt-right for the majority of my life, I have an interesting perspective on them. You have to think of the alt-right and the fascists and the neo-Nazis, the foot soldiers themselves, as kind of an antibody, sort of like an immune system for capitalism. As soon as everybody starts to realize that the system is falling apart and crumbling and turning into a fucking mess, the rulers, the ones in control, employ the propaganda machine to start stirring up that base. These people, the fascists, the foot soldiers, the individuals, a lot of them are not dummies. They know that things are going wrong. They realize that the system is falling apart too. Their solution, though, is not to fix the system. Their solution is to find a daddy, someone who can come and save them. That's their solution. And if the daddy says that the immigrants are the problem or that the communists are the problem, then that's who they blame. And that's what they go about trying to destroy. Not the system itself. The system has to be fine. It's just that they needed some savior, some person to come and tell them that everything is going to be okay and to pat their little heads and tell them that they're special. I'm sorry, but you're not special. The only way that you can fix the system is through direct action, is through human beings, all of us, the workers, united together, actually taking on the system in an aggressive way, not necessarily violent, and replacing it with something that works, something that's better, and something that can benefit all workers. A system such as anarcho-communism, where the workers own and control the means of production, or socialism, where the workers control and own the means of production. Either one of those would be just fine. But here's the problem with the word fascism, is that it's been used for every single thing throughout history. So a lot of people in the center, liberals and conservatives, think that fascism could just mean a dick. Somebody that cuts you off in the street, or somebody that's like, kind of strict about taking your shoes off in their house. That's what they assume you mean when you say fascism. So when you say fascism, they don't think about Nazis. Or, well, they do think about Nazis, but they think that you're equating Nazis to not taking your shoes off in the house. And I assure you that when I'm talking about fascists, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the actual definition of fascism. So what is the actual definition of fascism? Well, the actual economic definition of fascism is basically when the state and business come together to control the population. Fascism is basically anti-democracy. It's when the government or the state, in this case, because it would be the merger of state and business. The state is basically a totalitarian dictatorship over the people, and the people have no say in anything that happens whatsoever. Democracy dies. Fascism is interesting because it can latch itself onto virtually any ideal. Just as capitalism can sell you a Che Guevara t-shirt or Nazi regalia, fascism, being an evolution of capitalism, can easily latch onto those ideas. It's not far outside of the realm of possibility. Fascism can take from all sides of the political spectrum. But for the most part, I don't like to use the term fascist to describe people from all sides of the political spectrum that are in the authoritarian camp. I like to use the word authoritarian. I think it's more descriptive. Fascism seems like it's more on the right of the political sphere, and authoritarian communism seems like it's more on the left of the political sphere. Those are the terms that I tend to use, but feel free to use whatever terms you want. The funny thing about language is that it grows and evolves and changes through history. That's why the term fascism is used in so many different ways, and that's the funny thing about English. The English language has many words that mean different things that sound the same. Which is which, there, and there. That's the funny thing about ideologies, ideological beliefs, is that you can't really pin something down without putting your definitions in with them. It's actually one of the tricks that fascists are able to use to cloak their ideology in all sorts of other ideals. Just like National Socialism. National Socialism, or Nazis, are not necessarily fascist. They have the idea that there should be a perfect white Aryan race. They're anti-Semitic and they're racist, but they're not necessarily fascist. That ideology just happens to be the one that they chose to use to gain power, or to give the elites more power. You see, the Nazis were the foot soldiers of the fascists, of the elites. Fascism is nothing more than a method of obtaining or retaining power. That's what it is. And it's not power for the majority, for the masses. It's power for the individual. It's power for the elites. It's power for the ones that are already at the top. That's the strategy. If it wasn't, then all of you would be against the government regardless of if Trump was in power or not. You should all realize at this point that there is no change that can happen through the state. The state will only ever perpetuate itself. And yet you feckless morons somehow believe that a president is going to get you what you want. It's not going to get you what you want. It's going to get them more of what they want. You might get a few concessions in the way, but eventually, especially when you're talking about the ones that are on the outskirts, like your Ben Shapiro's and your Milo Yiannopoulos', all of them are going to be taken, rounded up, and thrown into the camps like the communists and everybody else. And once they've gotten rid of them, it'll be the Irish and the Italians, and back and back and back until we eliminate every other race that isn't perfectly 100% purely white, whatever the fuck that means. This is exactly what I was alluding to when I was talking about my conversion from a Nazi to a communist. A lot of people had a problem with me saying that I was a Nazi. Well, guess what? If you are a Nazi sympathizer, if you wear Nazi regalia, if you hang out with them, if you vandalize things with Nazi slogans, not saying that I did, then that probably means that you're a Nazi. But of course, none of us, nobody admits to being a Nazi. That's not something that you say. And most Nazis who hear people say those sorts of things think that they're barbaric, that they're not being civilized about the way that they project themselves. No Nazi is going to tell you that they're a Nazi. But when you analyze their ideology and their belief structure, you know pretty quickly who the Nazis are, who the fascists are, and we can identify them. The alt-right probably aren't Nazis. Not by definition. I mean, they're not looking for a superior master race, necessarily. I mean, some of them are. A lot of them are. Some of them are even Jewish supremacists. Funny that. But they're definitely the foot soldiers of the fascists, of the oligarchy, of the totalitarian dictatorship. They are goons of the state. I've said this before. They're the ones who need their daddies to come and save them. They're the ones who beg and plead to have a strong man come and carry them out of that burning building and hope and pray that they don't just throw them into another one. The funny thing about this is once the fascists, the advanced, evolved capitalists, remember, gain control of absolutely everything and you have no more rights, no more powers, no more freedoms left, well, eventually they're just going to have robots do all of the work anyway. So you're going to become obsolete, and they're going to get rid of you too. We're all just pawns in this game. There's nobody that is going to come out of this surviving if we don't fight them. It just depends on what side you want to be on. Do you want to be on the side of the elites? The ones that are crushing you, that have the boot on your throat right now? Do you want to be on the side of the ones who need a savior, who need a daddy? Or do you think that you have personal autonomy, that you have that freedom, that you are strong, that you are powerful, and that you can actually fight this yourself? You can run to some savior. I'm sure that a lot of you will. It's pathetic. But I choose to fight. I choose to be strong and be confident. At least that's the way I look at it. My name is Aaron. This is my show, Re-Education. Thanks for watching.